Hello, everyone. So it doesn't always have to be this way. You may be wondering, what on earth am I talking about? Well, if the thumbnail did not indicate anything already, I'm talking about culture wars. I know it's an exhausting subject, and I know many of you want to tap out of these type of conversations, but we cannot deny the truth. Culture wars are here whether we wanted to or not. Now, to really change a lot, it's quite simple, really. And we just need three C's: collaboration, celebration, and creation. Obviously, we really nailed the other C, critique, which we do quite well, especially when it comes to left leaning pieces of entertainment. Now, when it comes to creation, there are individuals on the right who are creating a lot of stuff. However, when you look at the big picture, most of what we're creating is political. But if you zoom in quite well, you would notice there are conservative indie creators doing quite a lot of things: novels, video games, comic books, sculpting, painting. They're doing so many things. Problem is that mainstream conservatives don't acknowledge them. And that's the thing, mainstream conservatives deserve criticism for their lack of engagement when it comes to culture, especially our culture, because when it comes to engaging in other pieces of media, especially from the left, they're perfectly fine in engaging with those pieces of media, which is fine and all. I'm not going to bash them for doing that, but I find it really disappointing that they don't even make at least some time, even if it's like maybe one day a week, to at least check out some kind of conservative work. They don't really want to promote mainstream. Sorry, they don't want to promote conservatives who create stuff most of the time, unless they were in some kind of controversy or unless they were pretty much big before. So that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's going to be really difficult to get some kind of acknowledgement from the mainstream right. And the mainstream right would rather do everything in their power not to engage, not to even promote, not to even acknowledge these indie conservatives. And that's a major problem because the indie conservatives have ingredients that can really help the culture. I'm not talking about political stuff. The mainstream right has a lot of political stuff, but the indie right has a lot less of that, and that can really be useful if the mainstream right wants to focus on entertainment, which some of them really want to, but of course, they can't do all of that. The next obvious thing is kind of, the mainstream conservatives just want things to change, but not realizing that most of Hollywood, most of these institutions are heavily left leaning. So they're going to promote left leaning stuff. Sure, you'll get breadcrumbs once in a while, but it's like, guys, you're not going to get awesome, amazing conservative stuff from these individuals every single time. Okay, yeah, some companies will play it safe, but just remember that just a few years ago, they were quite keen on being full-on activists. They had no interest when it came to balancing things out whatsoever. Great example of this is Disney. Some of you guys may remember their not so gay agenda. They were perfectly fine with that, but apparently just trying to have something for everyone was just too difficult for them. So yeah, now they want to obviously stave away these these type of culture war stuff, but eventually when things slightly change, what if what if the right loses the next elections in America? What do you think is going to happen? You think things are going to remain the same, maybe for 1 or 2 years, but they're going to triple down on wokeness, okay? Just remember that. And this goes for all companies too. And I'm not saying that we can't engage in these companies now. Some of us obviously engage in these companies because we have some kind of connection in a way, and that's the thing. But the problem is, when it comes to mainstream conservatives, is they just only engage in one side. They don't really want to engage with the right. And it's like, guys, you're on our side. At least give us a bit more, just a bit more acknowledgement. Okay. Great example of this is the Odyssey. A lot of individuals gave it a chance on our side. They would never, ever, or barely give many indie creators a chance. So that's the problem. It's like, hey, you are willing to give this a chance, and people are like, oh no, Ellen Page is just there for a few minutes. That's all. Okay, she's there for a few minutes, but I mean, uh, wouldn't it be cool if you guys could at least fund something that could rival this in a way? Like, some kind of adaptation of some work from a conservative. Hey, that would be cool. But no, it doesn't work out that way. So yeah, obviously it's quite a miserable event going on right here, but it doesn't have to be this way. I feel like if the mainstream right really changes their attitude towards us, I think things can change for the better. Okay? They don't have to agree with every single thing we create. I mean, I don't think they agree with every single thing left leaning artists create, but they still go out there and promote that type of stuff or give it a positive review. Okay, that's great, but what about our stuff? Uh, days ago, I was just thinking, oh, mainstream conservatives would rather jump in a tub of filled with alligators than promote conservatives, conservative art. Sorry, yeah, sorry. That's quite grotesque. I know, but that's just how I feel sometimes. It's like it's getting really difficult when, yes, we have solutions, okay, and obviously the thing is that those solutions aren't going to be utilized. Oh boy. Uh, but that's the thing, we got to collaborate with these mainstream individuals. I think plenty of conservative creators out there in these indie spaces would love to have that acknowledgement, but mainstream conservatives have to reach out. You do have some indie conservatives out there who are quite bitter about this, and they may never want to work with mainstream conservatives. But the thing is that both will have no choice eventually. Just create something, not just one thing, sorry, a bunch of things. Okay, so I also want to acknowledge something else. Elon Musk wants to make his own Odyssey. He said this a while ago. I don't know that much on this, but the truth is that as much as I think he has a right to do whatever he wants with his money, I think it would be much better to spend it on better adaptations of media that obviously deserves good adaptations, unspoiled adaptations. That would be much better than just following what the left is doing. Yeah, okay, they race swapped a bunch of characters. Yeah, okay. Uh, there's no Greek there. It's Greekless, okay? Uh, well, guess what? Guess what? We can either play their game, do whatever they're doing, but anti-woke, or we can create something else that's faithful to the story. It can be any story. We can be extremely faithful to it. That's the lesson we should learn from this Odyssey debate. We want more faithful adaptations of stuff, and we can fund that type of stuff. However, the response shouldn't be, oh, we're going to make our own Odyssey and just to own these guys. Which, by the way, our stuff will easily be forgotten of, and even if their stuff is really, really terrible, our stuff will get forgotten of first, or just ignored because it's culture war stuff. Even though that side is also playing the culture war, they just don't call it a culture war. Anyways, I have the same feeling when it comes to the Snow White adaptation by Daily Wire, even though it doesn't exist. The thing is that, even though I'm also proud of them for wanting to make their own Snow White, you have to point out the fact that wanting to compete with their Snow White against Disney Snow White is something that I feel like they could have done something better. They could have at least created their original princess, or they could have at least adapted a princess that barely got any kind of adaptation in the past. That would have been much better. And now we don't have Daily Wire's Snow White. A lot of people want that, but I feel like it would have been much better if they created their own original princess. So yeah, it's like it feels like every time we're chasing whatever they're doing. And look, there's a big difference between competition and just, just following whatever they're doing. And it seems like we'll be still stuck in this game of follow the leader because they are leading, and we just think, oh, whatever they're doing, that means we have to do it too. No, we don't. Okay. We can compete in various ways. Competition isn't just do the same thing they're doing but slightly different. It's maybe in the same genre, but it's 10 times different, 20 times different, 30 times different, 100 times different, you know? Uh, okay, for example, if they have superhero movies, it doesn't mean that we have to take the exact same superheroes and just change it, but we have to have complete different mindset when it comes to that genre, you know? But anyways, tell me your thoughts. I know it's a 10-minute video. Sorry. um, so yeah, I feel like, it's something that Phoenix said last year. So last year, it was days after Charlie's assassination. Phoenix from Side Scrollers stated that we need to stop just doing whatever, well, following them, really. Stop reacting to whatever they're doing and just start creating. And I agree with that. Now, I'm not saying we have to ignore all the nonsense they're doing, because ignoring stuff like this is obviously what got us in this mess in the first place. The thing is that, we shouldn't only just be creating like things just like the flavor of the day. We can do a lot of stuff that isn't just that. We can do that type of stuff, but we can also do things that can feel timeless. So yeah, anyways, going back to the point of this video, mainstream conservatives need to start working with indie creators to get culture out, okay? That's just the solution, okay? Just politics alone cannot solve this, okay? You can't rely on owning the libs to solve everything, okay? We're still trying to play catch up, okay? The only way to placate the culture war river is to create, is to celebrate. And when I mean celebrate, I mean the stuff we create, okay? Enjoy it, promote it. It's okay to criticize it, but when good stuff comes out that isn't political, a lot of people just ignore it. I say no, enjoy it. And of course, collab is collab is the key, and creation and celebration. That's how we can stay afloat. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this video. Bye.